money, let's talk about the Naira in particular. Now, as you know, most Nigerians are livid. They are angry, and they feel that the presidency has not been compassionate at all. Everybody has been complaining. You have money, but you don't have money. Anyhow, to cut a long story short, after a long silence, 10 days in fact, with which it has met with the Supreme Court ruling on the matter, the Central Bank of Nigeria last night said that the old notes would remain legal tender till the end of the year. That's what we knew from 10 days ago. That's what the Supreme Court said. But Nigeria is what it is. It wasn't actioned. And what we were hearing was that we were waiting for an order. The banks just would not cooperate. The banks, you see those queues, they're out there. People taking mats and fold-up chairs to the ATMs. In short, Nigerians have really not had it this bad in a very, very, I can't even remember when things have been this bad. Anyway, here we are. The central bank now, 10 days after last night, issued this letter. There's a letter that went all over the social media that's the letter I'm talking about. And they now say that, now the old notes, the 500, 200, 500, and 1,000 naira notes will be legal tender alongside the old notes till the end of the year. Okay, we're going to talk about that and the damage it has done to the economy. Garba Shehu, presidential, spokesperson, actually threw the central bank and the attorney general under the bus yesterday for the president, saying, as you saw in that first slide, that no, this has nothing to do with the president. The president is not a micromanager. The CBN is, Garba also spoke for, the CBN. No reason whatsoever not to comply. And then, for good measure, saying to us that, President Buhari knows that democracy cannot be practiced without the rule of law. Okay. The rule of law, democracy cannot be practiced without the rule of law. And I think he's implying that the rule of law was infringed upon by the behavior of, let me just say the country. But we look to the president for guidance, and there was Garba Shehu throwing the CBN under the bus for, I don't know. So it's like the CBN and the Attorney General, they have to sort of now sort themselves out because the president has said he's had no part in it at all. The president was virtually saying, look, my hands, clean, nothing they there. We'll have an expert, of course, beyond my pepper soup joint kind of ranting here. We'll have an expert to talk about this, but just before that, in case you wanted to call in, it's about time, isn't it, that indeed something should be done, even if it is 10 days after. Good morning, Reverend Dominic.
Good morning, Chief Yori. How are you?
Very well, thank you.
Yori, I want to be frank to this. Many people call me every day about my support to Ashwaju and to APC. I have no apology to anybody. That's my concern, that's my passion, that's me. Let me correct one impression. Yesterday, one brother from Oriwele, Joshua, was trying to kick on all of us pastors. We are too many Nigerians. Not all pastors behave the way he thinks Joshua said behaves. I'm a prophet by the grace of God. I'm a pastor. I've been in this movement for 35 years.
Reverend Dominic, you know this is like our forum. And I understand that from yesterday you're talking about today. But look at the news, whether it is fantastic or not, that finally the president has now said that the presidency has now said the central bank should be obeyed. In fact, they're now going ahead to say that the president was not even lacking before.
Can I answer back?
Yes, please.
That is not a good news. It's a terrible news. It's a terrible news in the sense this. We don't need clarification from Axel Rock or from Mefele to base Supreme Court. It is a nation ruled by law. I went to my bank, I want to mention the name, on Wednesday, Salem Bank. They were giving old notes. And people reject the old note. As enlightened as I am, as how can I, enlightened as I am, reject the old note? I took it, Yori. I went to police station, they rejected it. I went to buy groceries, they rejected it. I went to market women, they rejected it. What kind of a nation is this? I want to be frank to and fair to assure you. Maybe when it comes, he will rebuild this nation. But APC and Buhari have taken us back to 1999.
Okay. Now, I think that's going to be our subject matter today because Garba Shehu, speaking for the presidency, says this has nothing to do with the president at all. Nothing whatsoever.
Chief Abdullah used to say, if you want to know how the fish smell, you smell the head. This presidency, let me use that word, this presidency has damaged the cycle of this nation. I've been attacked several times, you're supposed to know, by supporting Mr. President. Why do you keep quiet the changes, knowing the emotion, the tension in the nation? It should be the next day. We accept this Supreme Court law. Let Nigerians move ahead. Now you said 10 days later, and Nigerians will take more weeks, more months to get to terms to use old Naira notes because of our psychology. This government have caused more pain. And what we see next week, I pray for God. But governance anywhere in the world is about political party. When you go to America, you talk about Democrats, you talk about Republicans. And we have built that culture here. When we brought APC to correct the wrongs of PDP. But we know where we are today. Let me add this, Yori. If you read newspaper this morning, Punch, I got a sad news that Mr. President-elect is not interested in the National Assembly leadership. Remember, that is an unusual road. We went in 2015, and Sariki went to step in National Assembly and took over Senate.
Okay.
You know what reported from 2015
I hear you, Reverend Dominic.
How can he say he's not interested again
I hear you, Reverend Dominic, but you've actually crisscrossed over a number of lines, all of them important, that we wanted to sort of take one by one. So thank you very much for calling in. But let's look at this whole subject matter of this is nothing to do with the president. Garba Shehu, speaking for the presidency, saying this has nothing to do with the president. The president cannot rightly be called incompassionate. That's not his style. And well, you see, the thing with that is that when you say that, you're actually throwing the CBN governor and the Attorney General, you're throwing them under. But then Garba Shehu, comes gentleman, had much to do with this as well. So you see, as Reverend Dominic just finished saying, what kind of a country is this? That's not the most political, intellectual, political language. But I guess he's speaking for a lot of Nigerians who just say that they don't know what is going on. How can Garba Shehu say what he said? Yeah, it's his job, but he has said it 10 days after the Supreme Court ruling. Someone in Ikeja calling in. Good morning. Mr. George. Mr. George.
Yes.
Good morning to you.
Good morning, Uncle Yori.
Good morning.
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Uncle Yori, I totally disagree with Garba Shehu. And I don't know what to call it. The president cannot be making that claim. The Supreme Court judgment was pronounced. The following day, he traveled to Sierra Leone. If he wanted to obey the rules, the order, he would have given instruction to the CBN governor that day before he traveled. We are not babies here.
Garba Shehu was even saying that the CBN governor doesn't need any such instruction. He said the president is not a micromanager.
Uncle Yori, how can you believe that? That's why I say we are not children here. This same president was the one that came on air after the court gave the first order, and he gave his own announcement contrary to what the Supreme Court said. Why did he do that at that time? But when the Supreme Court gave the final verdict, he didn't see any reason to quickly make an announcement again. I beg, I'm in my mid-60s. We can talk to children in primary school like that, not people like me. Uncle Yori, this is President Buhari that is known as the protector of the Talakawa. That's how they call him in the north. I remember when he came in.
That is protector of the downtrodden.
Yes. When he came in, many states were owing salaries. and pensions. He bailed them out. Those are the kind of things that we know him for. I don't know when Emefiele became his son. That whatever his son says he should do is what he will now do without even considering the implications in the interest of the generality of this country. If you know what is going on, you will weep, Uncle Yori. Some of us who are on the ground with people, we know what they're talking about. For the past 3 weeks, I have not used my hand to touch even 200 Naira. I have about 6 transactions that I have made. The money is out of the account. It will not get, and then people are dying. And then I don't know what can be more important than that.
Well, I guess, sorry, Mr. George, I guess Garba Shehu, had to say something. He felt a need to say something, and he has.
But he has to, Uncle Yori, he has to know who the people he is addressing. He has to tell us what is wrong in being honest. Tell us the truth, and we should we understand what is wrong in apologizing. Even the CBN governor has no apology whatsoever.
You know how it works. It works by formula. It works by formula. The presidential spokesperson has spoken. That is now going to be the truth that we're going to be carrying.
Yeah, but please let me say this. If the president wants to regain the trust and confidence Nigerians have on him, he should sack the GMD of NNPC and the CBN governor today.
Oh dear.
Not tomorrow.
All right, Mr. George, thank you very much for calling in. Well, when we sit down, we set agenda for presidents. We set, even the incoming president, we are busy setting agenda for him on all stations, all radio stations, all TV stations, newspapers. So, but this recommendation, well, they are hearing it too, I'm sure. Thank you very much for calling in, Mr. George. And so here we are. Now, among other things that we've heard in the past when we were waiting for action following the Supreme Court's ruling 10 days ago, among those things we were hearing from experts was that Mr. President was wrongly advised. There's absolutely no way you can blame this on Mr. President. The only way the cock-up we have, kind of happened is that the president was unknowing when he had nodded, in ascension to everything that, CBN was, and Mr. Emefiele and Mr. Attorney General, what they were telling him. He was misadvised, was what we were hearing. But when we say, look, you can't make it sound as if Mr. President doesn't know his left from his right. But easy, this is what the spin doctors give us. Let me go to Ladipo now. Somebody's calling in from Ladipo.
Yeah,
actually, it's not Ladipo, it is Ladi. Please go ahead, Ladi. I didn't, from calling in from Lagos.
I was wondering, I've not started selling spare parts. Good morning, Uncle Yori. How are you?
Sorry
today?
about that. Good morning to you.
That's okay. I'm excited about the topic we're discussing this morning, and I'm quite glad I was able to make my contribution. Uncle Yori, this country is a very funny country, and people don't take public governance very seriously. What we have seen in the last
sorry, Ladi. That opening sentence, this country is a very funny country. You know how we are here. We're passionate about Nigeria. We don't deride Nigeria. I know.
I am super passionate about Nigeria.
Okay.
And that's why when you see things like this happen, it breaks your heart. It breaks your heart. You see what people have been going through in this country? People are treated with such a disgust and in such an embarrassing manner to get their money, their hard-earned money. When you see what they went through, they go to the bank by 5 a.m. to get tally. They give someone as long as 170. Up until 4 o'clock, they will get to like 85.
Yeah, but sorry, Ladi, we were all blaming the president for that. He is the top dog. The buck stops at his desk. We were all blaming him for that until we've now heard that we were all in error. We shouldn't have been touching Mr. President at all.
We were not in error. We were not in error. Nigeria is a very intellectual society. We were not in error in any way. You look at that statement. I read it. It was such a lengthy statement with absolutely no message in it. I felt so embarrassed. What was in that message? Nothing, Uncle Yori, nothing. No apology, no acknowledgement of failure. The court, when Supreme Court sat, they said let status quo remain. The president went ahead and issued a statement, came on air, made the national broadcast, and only 200 Naira should be recirculated into the system. So we waited. We got a judgment. It took 10 days.
After 17...
You should give kudos to those governors, and especially people like Malam Nasir El-Rufai, who stood up to the president, because you consider El-Rufai as one of the closest persons to the president.
That's right.
And he took him up on this matter and said, Mr. President, on this one you are wrong. And look at the way the CPN governor has been behaving like an in a country like this.
Okay, you know, thank you very much for calling in, Ladi. Ladi, did you notice? Ladi, did you notice that in that statement, for all of the length of the statement, there was nowhere where the president now said categorically and beyond the faintest iota of doubt, this must be in effect immediately. Did you hear that?
There was nothing like that.
So
there was nothing like that. There was nothing. The presidency didn't take any absolute responsibility to even obey Supreme Court, and the presidency doesn't micromanage people. What kind of thing is that?
And that the president is a firm believer in the rule of law.
But as far as this matter is concerned, he didn't demonstrate that. And it was so painful for people like us who stuck our throats on the slaughter slab for Mr. President.
Okay, Ladi.
I think we don't know what we're doing.
I want to thank you.
I sent 2 people out from my office yesterday. One was supposed to go to Mowe. One was supposed to go to Ikotu. The 2 of them couldn't get cash to get out of the factory. What is the cost of that man-hour loss if you multiply it by total number of people who find themselves in that position in the country? Do we even count our cost?
No. Has
anybody sat down and said how much have we lost?
Okay.
And nobody's taking responsibility. Nobody's apologizing. The president should be apologizing to Nigeria.
Okay, let's leave it there, Ladi. I think you've made your case, and I would dare to suggest that this must be the situation in the minds of hundreds of thousands, if not millions of Nigerians. There has been no apology, you've noted, from the presidency for putting us through all of this stress. We're not even going to go into the origins of the idea, because it has been said frequently that, wait a minute, the CBN has also sort of patched onto this a cashless policy drive. Nobody's against that. A lot of people see the sense in that. Nobody is saying, no, that can't work. In fact, we've been doing some version of it. But I think Mr. George called in earlier. I don't know if you've also alluded to it. Even that is not working how it should work. In this kind of transferring funds, you have situations where the funds leave your account, don't arrive over there. Yeah, no problem. We're not blaming the presidency for that. These are teething problems. We will get there. So nobody is against the cashless policy. But this one, I'm just sorry for the central bank and the attorney general, because they were thrown under the bus yesterday night. By the presidential spokesman, Garba Shehu. Not that that was his intention, but that is what happened. Because you've now heard that the president had nothing to do with this, and that they didn't expect anybody to be waiting for orders from above. When all the bank managers up and down Nigeria refused to do the needful, saying that they've not heard from the authority that they want to hear from. I guess that would be the central bank governor. I have a caller from Uyo. Good morning. Victor in Uyo.
Good morning.
Good morning, sir. Go ahead quickly, please.
My name is Victor, calling from Uyo.
Welcome.
Please, we need issue of money for this part of this side. We suffer a lot for this. Okay. We suffer a lot on this side with this money issue.
Victor, how have you suffered? What kind of suffering? How do you mean you've suffered a lot?
Yes, we suffer a lot because when they said that we should not use the money, a lot of us, we have that money in our hands. Somebody like me as a market seller.
Carry on, Victor.
As a market seller, so I have a lot of that money in my up to 50-something thousand naira.
In old notes?
The old notes. But when the federal government issued a statement that we should not use it again, they put on the deadline. So what happened there is that how we're suffering is not only me alone, with our colleagues in the market that will suffer together. The 50,000 I have to give to all these people who sell cow trader. You give them 50,000 naira, they give you 25,000 naira. That's how we suffer loss in this side.
Yeah.
Then, now they come back, they said we should use this money again. We don't need this money. They stop us to use the money. We don't need it. We are not happy. That is why the market people are not collecting, because we were the one who suffered loss from our market. And now we can't even buy market, because even the one who paid in our account, you can't even withdraw.
Yeah.
So in my own issue is that the court would have automatically, as in the Central Bank of Nigeria, to give us our money, the one we pay in, let us have access. Not to say they should bring out the old note. We don't need the old note. We suffer a lot for the old note. They should give us our new note so that we can have access and use it.
Yeah.
That is it. Because what happened in the past, that's the 31st December they will still repeat again. We'll still go ahead to suffer loss again, because they will stop us of using it. Then that money will become dormant in our owner. So we don't want to suffer it again. They should give us new money, and we are not happy. We are too suffering. They should give us our money. That is it. Thank you.
Thank you very much for calling in, and I hope Gadu Shehu also heard that, because he needs all the field research he can get as to how this policy has been affecting people. The confusion that we now have on our hands. For one time, that note, the old notes are not legal tender. Then now, it is legal tender. Now, instead of you to come out with that news fast and avert further damage, you keep quiet for 10 days. And now, we haven't even got an express statement yet. Although something has come out from the central bank, there's this, that square letter that we showed you that suddenly showed up on social. 200, 500, and 1,000 Naira notes will indeed be legal tender. And I'm very happy about that gentleman that called in from Victor from Uyo. Talk about confusion. You said go, then you said come. Now we've come, you said go again. You said we don't want again. That guy said, if he wasn't exaggerating, that he took 50,000 Naira old notes to get 25,000 Naira new notes. I have someone else on the line. Balogun is on the line. Balogun is calling in from Ogba. Good morning, sir.
Good morning.
Yori?
My name is Balogun Mubarak. I'm calling from Ogba.
Yeah.
Actually, concerning this Naira crisis, I have some reservation about it.
Sure. Let's hear it.
Yeah, currently, I guess we've been having policies around the Naira policies, like the cashless policy we've been having in this country, and in which they've been terrible. I'm sorry to say this. Like, they've been terrible policies, and there's no implementation. There's no proper strategy. We cannot have all these things in place before we put those things out. Like, they are just ridiculous policies all around. Since the first day of inception of Naira policy, we've been having so many dramatic points or policies around these money policies. And currently, this one has shown that our CBN governors have never or did not even put or consider the masses in the first place before putting out policies. Like, they did not make a very huge or very proper research about what and how we, the citizens, are living in the economy. So I don't think we should. I think we should start challenging the authorities, the authorities about how and who is their leader. Because I think currently Mr. Lee has shown us that he's a typical illiterate and a wicked person.
No, Mr. Balogun, no abuse allowed.
Okay.
No abuse allowed. But thank you very much for calling in. I appreciate your call. But Mr. Balogun, even though you're not online anymore, you will recall that when you want to go there, what can Emefiele do? What can Emefiele do? It's just that it's not always that we air, laundry out in the sun, in the broad daylight. Emefiele couldn't go ahead, is the way some people think, without getting a nod from the president. That is what people think. Now, we are not in the corridors of power, so we might be completely off the mark. But when Mr. Abalokun wanted to get angry, and I had to sort of calm him down a bit, say, no abuse, he wanted to put it all on Emefiele. Emefiele, he would have done the right thing if he could have. I don't know how it all started, who came up with the idea in the very first place to go messing with our currency the way they have done now. But in terms of going back and immediately on the very day of the Supreme Court ruling, in terms of, within that day, saying the right thing needs to be done, immediately go with the Supreme Court. From today, all formal money is good again. We didn't hear that from the presidency. It is another thing that we heard. But I have another caller on the line. Sheson from Abule Egba. Good morning to you.
Good morning, Uncle Yori.
Good morning, sir. Please go.
Contributing to the topic before this morning, what Garba Shehu is saying about the presidency or the president is unheard of. And it reminds us of the arrogance or the arrogancy of the military head of state of those days in Nigeria. They never agree to whatever they have done wrong. I think they are bringing back that memory of the military head of state being right all the time with their wrongs. That is what we are experiencing in this democracy. And if they are to allow the rule of law in this democracy, when the order of the Supreme Court came about 3 weeks ago, that the two currencies should exist, honestly, it's supposed to be natural. But the president has to come out again to say that it's only 200 naira that is allowed, which is not within what the Supreme Court said.
That was scandalous. That was scandalous. It went directly against the Supreme Court's ruling.
Yes. So now, where I want to speak about is this. Thank God for the president-elect. He's a pro-democracy warlord. Let me put it that way. and I believe that...
No, I wouldn't call him a warlord. I beg your pardon for interjecting. I beg your pardon.
He's a pro-democracy leader.
Yes.
Because he has been in the trenches fighting this military for so many years, so many decades.
I get you. I got your meaning.
And we know that a true democracy is what we are going to experience come from May 29.
Okay. Well,
and all these shenanigans.
I hear you, sir.
The establishment.
Thank you. Let's leave it there. Let's leave it there because we mustn't give the impression that we haven't had democracy all this while. We have. Don't forget that we, maybe people like you and me, we've been speculating that the president has been badly advised. At least that's our own speculation because other things that he has done have indeed championed democracy and the rule of law, as Garba Shehu sought to sort of put out there. But I don't envy Garba Shehu his job. He was speaking to people who, that is a public, that was just looking at him and saying, can you believe what this gentleman is telling us? After we've been through it. Okay, we'll take a break now. And then after all this pepper soup kind of ranting that I've been doing, we shall now look at a proper, professional, balanced, and cool-headed economic analysis of the stress we've been through and what this has done to the economy. Stay with us, please. We'll be right back.
It's the most visited state in Africa. As the fifth largest economy on the continent, covering Lagos and its government is no mean feat. It's a busy beat. We go beyond the cutting of tapes to traveling far into the deep.
I want to thank the Lagos state government for the healthcare facility.
To bring stories that cut across all spectrums.
A greater Lagos shall be ours.
Stories that define our collective well-being as Lagosians. I'm Adedoja Salam Adeniyi. I live in Lagos, inside Lagos.
Politics is defined as getting what, where, when, and how. But in the mix, many things come to play to shape the political fortune of any country.
Honorable Minister, how you misinform the public?
From the political actors to the electorate, campaign to voting, from debates to policy.
Don't worry.
Join me every day on Politics Tonight, where we dissect issues that shape our political destiny. Politics Tonight, weekdays on TVC News.
Okay, welcome back. And I dare say since we began the program, we've been having something of a jolly good rant. But it's about the difficulties that this whole Naira crisis has brought upon us. But as I said just before we went on break, we'll sort of put a pause to that for the moment and take a professional and informed opinion. My guest this morning is Dr. Muda Yusuf. Dr. Yusuf is CEO of Center for Promotion of Private Enterprise, CPPE. He's also the former Director General, Lagos Chamber of Commerce and Industry, LCCI. Thank you very much for coming on the program.
It's a pleasure.
Indeed.
Thank you.
It's our pleasure.
Thank you.
You no doubt would have heard about the statement that has been put out, also all of it to the effect that, yes, indeed, what the whole country knew 10 days ago, according to the central bank ruling, and since everybody knows that there's no further law beyond that.
Yeah.
So we were expecting that, okay, we're going to be happy. The president, the governor of central bank, I don't know if we should put the attorney general in it. They all delayed this for 10 days until the announcement was made. So I'm going to leave all of that to one side, sir. I wanted to ask you, those that feel that this has been very damaging to the economy since the whole policy started, would you sort of give me your evaluation on whether that was making a mountain out of an anthill, or indeed it has cost us, so to speak, a pretty penny?
Yes, it has cost us a lot. And we have never had this kind of experience. When you have a situation where the entire economy was almost ground into a halt. Because what is an economy if you don't have a payment system? There is no way an economy can function. Now, cash is a payment instrument. Mm-hmm. And there is no business you do that will not involve some form of payment, whether electronically or physically.
That's right.
Now, when you have a situation where there was acute shortage of cash, that paralyzed the economy in so many ways.
And it was intentionally so.
It was intentionally so. Well, there are all sorts of theories.
Yeah.
There is economic theory where the central bank was trying to propound that we have too much cash in the economy. There's also the political theory that maybe this was about vote buying. There's also the criminality theory that is about the bandits and kidnappers. But whatever it is.
But the authorities just mopped up all the cash.
Mopped up the cash. And this, we said this at the beginning. There's an optimum level of cash you need to service an economy, especially an economy of this size. Mm-hmm. You have an economy of over 200 trillion naira. You cannot say that a 2.6 trillion naira cash is too much. There are global best practices. There are metrics that you use. You have what you call cash to your GDP, Cash to GDP ratio in Nigeria is just about 1.5%. In many other climes, it's as high as 10%, 15%, 18%.
Oh, so even before this, it was hovering around the 1.5%.
Around 1.5%.
Even before all of this trouble.
Yes, it wasn't that bad.
And then they didn't cut it more.
Then you have the metrics of checking the ratio of your cash to your money supply. Money supply was 52 trillion. Cash was 2.6 trillion. That means 95% of money is still within the banking system. So we don't fix what is not broken.
Okay,
all this journey that the CBN has taken us through.
But I heard at that time from the experts, well, mostly in CBN, and when I say mostly in CBN, it was really Emefiele that you were hearing from most of the time, that there's far too much cash in circulation.
No, that is not correct. It has no basis in economics. It has no basis even in any empirical studies. I've just told you the metrics that you use in economics to measure cash dominance in an economy. You relate your cash to the size of your economy. You relate your cash to the size of your money supply. You know, on these two ratios, we are not doing badly. So and luckily, with the advent of this and proliferation of this POS, the financial inclusion level has increased. Even all these organizers that didn't have bank accounts were able to have bank accounts. And they are relating with the POS. So we are making a lot of progress. So the shock that this cash design team brought into the economy was a terrible shock. And you can imagine how it has destabilized the economy.
You know, I was going to ask, you know, sometimes we hear in other sectors, like go to the petroleum sector, they say, quote unquote, I'm just using it as an example, if you shut down the refinery, it's not as easy tomorrow to just switch the flip back up and everything is back. They say it doesn't work like that. And so I was going to ask, with that kind of a background, in the case of the monetary policy and the Naira and all of that, how soon do you think we will recover? Will it be instantaneous, or are there some areas of this particular problem that are permanently affected?
If there are no administrative hurdles or obstacles, because what we are seeing now is compliance with the Supreme Court judgment. On the face of it.
Well, we haven't seen it yet. We still have to go to the banks.
We have to go to the banks.
And write a check for example, the 70,000 Naira and get it.
And get it. And take the cash out and go to the market.
Yes.
And it is accepted.
So we don't know that CBN is going to go all that way.
Exactly. So that is the situation. So we are hoping that there will be no administrative hurdles. For instance, there is this hurdle of saying that you have to generate a code before you can deposit money.
Yes.
The Supreme Court judgment did not cover that. And I'm hoping that that will be removed at this time. Because something is a legal tender, you don't have to generate a code either to withdraw it or to deposit it. And I also hope that there will be no other deliberate efforts to sabotage this. Because this compliance is a very reluctant compliance.
It does look like that.
You can see, you can see the time lag between when we had the judgment and when the president spoke and when the CBN is now issuing a statement. So because of that, some of us are still a bit worried as to genuine commitment to the compliance with the Supreme Court judgment. If there is a new commitment to it, within weeks, we should recover.
Okay, within weeks.
Yes.
If there's sincerity of purpose.
If there is sincerity of purpose. Although I get worried at the beginning when we were being told that they had burnt all the old currency notes and all. I don't believe that is so. I believe these currencies are still within either the banking, within the commercial banking system or within the central banking system.
Yeah.
So if they push it out, and if the central bank also accelerate the pace of printing of the new notes, so that gradually you can mop up the old ones and replace with the new ones. Because that is the spirit of the timeline.
And
the whole essence of the Supreme Court judgment is to expand the timeline so that there can be a seamless transition, which is what we need.
But we have a fiasco on our hands, and as you've said, subject to the things that you said, if all of those can be done, you remove further impediments.
Yes.
And I think I'm inclined to agree with you. not being an expert of any sort, that this is a very reluctant compliance.
Very reluctant.
Very reluctant. And really, the government has to do something about that, because if Garba Shehu is saying on behalf of the president that he's a Democrat who knows the importance of the rule of law and would never think of functioning without it, well, if he knows all of that, then I guess we do need a bit more proof.
We need a bit more proof. And it's quite strange, quite frankly. President Buhari is somebody that has a lot of, compassion for the poor people, the talakawas. You remember the issue of subsidy?
That's right.
He said he doesn't want to hurt the ordinary people.
But people say he's been ill-advised.
So it's so strange that
they say he was ill-advised.
People went through all of this.
That he meant well. That he was misadvised that this was indeed a superb policy, I
think I will agree with that.
Except that the president himself has to have his own economic advisors now.
Economic advisors.
So when they come from the CBN or wherever this thing came from, his own closest, circle of advisors.
Should be able to look
should have been able to tell him. So that's the part that we don't really understand.
Exactly.
And until you're out of it.
Exactly.
They say those of us that are out of it. It's encouraging to hear you say that if no further impediments are put in the way of this seeming reluctant compliance, then within weeks.
We should be out of it.
Because nothing. And then
within weeks we should be out of it.
Recall that we also had something of a double whammy as this was going on. There was this whole catastrophe in the cash sector. There was no fuel as well.
There was no fuel.
Well, that one hasn't disappeared.
It hasn't disappeared.
But it's getting a lot better.
It's getting a lot better.
People can spend maybe 15, 20 minutes at a petrol station now.
It's getting a lot better. And these are some of the challenges that the new administration needs to fix. Because some of these problems are very fundamental in nature. Mm-hmm. I've been on this fuel thing for decades. And the earlier we're able to sort it out in an enduring way, in a sustainable way, the better. And that will require a lot of reforms. Of course, some painful decisions will have to be taken. But that is what we need to ensure sustainability in all of this.
Well, you see, tantalizingly, they're counting those blue notes in the pictures that were just, these are, what do they call those, stock pictures that we have. But nobody is seeing, even TVC is adding its own bit to it. The very Naira that nobody has seen.
I'm sure your reporters on the field, we should get a feedback by the end of the day.
Exactly.
How well has this thing impacted?
How well?
And how well is the awareness in terms of the acceptance of the old currency notes?
He's a small trader, and he said it's impossible that now, as you know, people are not accepting notes anymore, but they say they should be accepting it. I don't know. So indeed, as you say, I'm sure TVC News is going to
even the ordinary person on the street, in the marketplace, was saying that we haven't heard from CBN.
Yes.
We haven't heard from Buhari.
Yes.
And that is what they were with. Now they have heard from them. And I'm sure there will be a change.
Well, yeah.
There will be a change.
Because that change is going to come from the banks. Once the banks begin to give people, like before, whatever they want out of their money. But you were explaining that this was a three-pronged attack. On the one level, there was the criminality, part of it. So if you're going to be generating a code, I guess kidnappers and the like will not be able to, the code will further trace where the money is coming from.
That will create another impediment. We don't want any other impediment on the, in this cash process. So we should return back to status quo and let these things flow. The issue of criminality, you can always trace. If somebody is depositing, maybe $1 billion Naira cash or something, you have the record.
That's right.
You can always go after the person.
Let me bring in Mr. Joshua in Irewolide. Good morning, Mr. Joshua.
Okay, good morning.
Good morning.
Just quickly, please. Please use your platform to appeal to Nigerians to start accepting this currency. The banks are paying out the old notes already. So let people stop rejecting it. I think we have had enough. And then there is sufficient information from the authorities to show that this is a legal tender. The public needs to be educated to start accepting it. Like the guy that called him from Uyo, there is this attitude of we are punishing ourselves. If they keep rejecting it, we are punishing ourselves. We are punishing ourselves. Okay, whatever has happened, but we should go forward.
Yeah.
And please, Uncle Yori, finally, because I don't know if I'll be able to get you before you go to Aso Rock. Please, I am begging you, Uncle Yori, let the president-elect promote an open government.
All right,
promote an open government.
All right.
This present government disconnected with the people. Let him promote an open government. He will succeed.
Thank you very much for calling in, Mr. Joshua. Remember that while the governors, I think 17 of the states took the federal government to court, and this has led up to they won, and the federal government was, sulking about it and wouldn't action it. But remember that some governors, well, let me just limit myself to what I'm sure about. El Rufai, governor of Kaduna, had said to his people in the heat of it all, don't worry, guys, on my word, use that money. It will be fixed. Now, it was seen as very controversial when the statement was being made. I think Seyi Makinde has also done the same thing over in his territory as well. So it would appear that those guys were seeing, they were sort of like, almost like prophetic, almost, because they said, keep on using, I assure you, the government cannot win in this case. Keep on using those, that's your old currency. I don't know the extent to which the people responded, but that very notion about the government has put out one currency, and there are people saying that they don't have a right to do what they've just done to mess up our whole finances and our whole lives. So please ignore them. Keep on spending that money amongst yourselves.
At that time was anchored on the Supreme Court's judgment.
Yes.
There was this ex parte order. 2 minutes before. Ex parte order before this main judgment. That in the meantime, before the substantive suit was heard, that the status quo should remain, which meant that the old and the new should continue.
Yes, but people were afraid.
People were afraid. But again, the matter was made worse. Again, there was no announcement from either the president or the CBN governor. And when the president now made a pronouncement, he limited it to only 200 Naira notes.
We're going to have to leave it here to Dr. Yusuf. It's been a harrowing experience.
It is.
But thank you for coming along. Appreciate your coming on. And indeed, that's our program today. Please join us tomorrow for a fresh edition. I am Yori Folarin. Bye-bye for now.
It's a moment. Instant breaking news from all over the globe. Live streaming of your favorite programs delivered directly to you. Watch anytime from anywhere on your mobile or smart devices. Download the TVC News app today. Available on Google Play and Apple Store. Kolishlasla Mandela was born into the Madiba clan on the 18th of July 1918. He got involved in politics in 1942 as he helped to form